You can really start to see Sydney and Tina begin to work collaboratively, not sabotaging, but we have a common goal. We can solve these problems as community. So in this series, we're examining the attachment themes strewn throughout the FX Hulu show, The Bear. We will be discussing in detail each episode as the story unfolds, so that you can watch or rewatch before you listen and then follow along with our discussion. We have seen all the episodes, but we won't discuss any content beyond the episodes we're discussing. So if you haven't seen the show, press pause now, go watch, and hop back on to the podcast.
Here we go.
Back for another episode.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Michael.
Hi, Michael.
I beat you to it.
You did. We are working on episode 5 of The Bear. And it's funny because you didn't prepare for this one.
Wow. Just throw me under every bus.
You prepared. You just prepared for the wrong one.
This is true. It's not that I hadn't seen the episode, not that I hadn't reflected on it. Mm-hmm. It just has been a while. And so
we did a rewatch. We caught up.
Yeah, I'm playing a little catch up personally.
We reflected.
Yeah.
There's a lot of great stuff in this episode.
Always. Because it's such a great show.
It's an amazing show. I still have a lot of patients who are like, yeah, I can't watch it. It's too stressful. But I'm like, you're missing out because it's so good.
Yeah, but that is fascinating that people find the show too much. Mm-hmm. And I can understand that, even if it's so different from my experience or my reality.
But there's a fantasy that I have that if they will stick with us and watch it with us,
yes,
that they'll be able to catch the repairs that take
too.
all the chaos and turn that volume way down. I mean, the chaos still exists, but it makes it more metabolizable. Is that a word? I think I say that every episode in one word. Is that a word?
Yeah, I think it would be a wonderfully interesting therapeutic encounter. Maybe it's like therapy camp, some sort of weekend intensive where you watch The Bear with your therapist. And because it's understandable that it's very provoking.
Oh, absolutely.
For certain people, it's very provoking of their nervous system, of a sense of threat and risk, and everyone deserves the capacity to watch this show. We're venturing in entirely different waters here, but I'm very passionate about that in so much as if this show is provoking and overwhelming, it means something has happened in your life that has harmed you, and you deserve to heal from that.
Absolutely.
And the insecurity of attachment makes it difficult to heal from difficult experiences, and is also a result of difficult experiences, and why we therapists are quite passionate about repair, healing, and why I think we want people to be able to watch this show, because it's rife with beautiful moments of repair just as much as it's rife with the difficulty of life.
Intense moments of rupture.
Yeah. So this show is called...
Well, before we go there, let's introduce our drink. Oh,
I don't know that it's connected to the drink, is it?
No.
Well, I thought it was, because your drink that we are making has a smoky fire component to it.
Right.
And in this show, not so much in the title of Sheridan,
right,
but when you actually watch the show, there's lots of fire.
Ton of fire.
Lots of smoke.
A lot of smoke.
Whether it's in dreams or IRL, that's in real life for you boomers. And
way to go. Look at you do it.
I am translating.
IRL, huh?
Yeah. So there's lots of smoke, lots of fire. And that's partly how you made our drink.
Yes, that's why I made it. Our drink is a smoked old fashioned. So it's just a regular old fashioned, just introducing a smoke component to it that just gives it a nice aroma and a richness. Yeah.
Yeah. And you will have in the show notes how one introduces a smoke element to one's drink.
To one's drink.
Because it doesn't just come in a bottle.
Actually, it does.
Liquid smoke. Don't do it.
I've never made an old fashioned with liquid smoke. Right.
Any other food in. Yes.
It probably has so many carcinogens or something.
I mean,
fact check.
Smoke is a carcinogen.
It's true.
It's just a little different version of it.
But yes, it'll be in the show notes and in our socials on how to create that, how to make them.
I can attest it's quite delicious.
So good. You may have to take an antacid, much like Sid does in the show.
From the smoke?
Yeah.
Oh, fascinating.
Oh, yeah, it can cause heartburn. A lot of people get heartburn with barbecue. Yeah. Anywho, that's part of it. But
let's get into it.
Sid, she gets to dream this time. It's her turn. I actually stole it from you. You said that, but I'm going to use it.
Everything is stolen.
It's true.
Everything is original.
That's very true. So Sid gets a dream this time. Her dream is a little different. It's not really, it's not a nightmare. It's not really creating. It seems more reflective.
Well, she should be sleeping, but she's remembering.
3:35 in the morning.
And so it's this non-dream dream. It's this sort of memory. It's this reflecting, but not entirely reflective. She wants to be asleep. She needs to be asleep. It would be well if she was sleeping.
Yeah.
But the way that these writers, producers make this show is it's like a dream, non-dream. It's beautifully artistic. I love it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so she's having flashbacks of.
Yeah, that's what it is. Flashbacks of her catering days. She has a business that we learn later on that didn't make it. But in these flashes are text messages that if you're detail oriented, you'll pause and rewind, pause and rewind. But the text messages are loan
default. Yeah.
Default and not getting approved for other loans. Yeah.
Credit card.
And so she has that. There's pictures of her childhood, it seems like. Previous dishes she's made that looked delightful. Looked, the Michelin star, 5-star.
Yes.
Type dishes. And yeah, so there's a lot of smoke already as she's cooking. And then the sizzle of the fire that she had and what she's wrestling with to try to reinvigorate, try to do again, try to come from the ashes. I don't know. But she's struggling with it. What I notice is that it seems like she's struggling with these things alone internally, which is on brand for her. That's her avoidant, dismissive style. And I think it's also marked by the thing I noticed, and one of the things I rewound was the medication. I was like, oh, what's she taking?
Yeah.
Like, who doesn't want to look in? Do you look in the medicine cabinets when you're visiting?
No, I do not.
No?
I'm not saying that I don't want to. Let's make that clear.
Well, I probably would, but most people don't keep their medicine in medicine cabinets anymore.
Especially these days.
Yeah. So probably because of people like me. I'm nosy.
This is why I always ask to use the main bathroom. So I can snoop in their drawers. Yeah, no. That's when no one's in there.
Yeah. So anyways, her medication is an antacid. And it's a prescription level antacid. Doesn't come in just the regular Costco Nexium pill bottle.
Yeah.
So, but that to me represents it's not an uncommon way in which the body responds to having physically repressed, contained stress, anxiety, aloneness is through acid reflux.
Yeah. The way in which the body and the mind are intimately connected and influencing one another.
Yeah.
Sometimes in a dangerous loop.
Yes.
Her body is producing too much acid.
Did you almost say acid?
Yeah.
She got too much acid.
I was having gas. I don't have acid problems, but I might have some gassy problems.
Oh goodness.
Yeah, so her body's producing too much acid, or it's not keeping the acid in the right places. It's all foreshadowing, interestingly, which we will get in other episodes, I think.
Oh yeah.
But the concept of acid. And so she's having to take medication that's anti-acid. It's interesting. But nevertheless, it's just the way in which psychological difficulties show up in our bodies. And those of us who are dismissively attached may have trouble cueing into those messages that the body is letting you know something's amiss.
Something is up.
Yeah. And we tend to solve those problems through independent
soothing, self-regulating,
where it ought to be best solved or addressed in a more interpersonal field by sharing of one's life, sharing of one's internal world, receiving support, input, love, acceptance.
I haven't asked this about the dismissive attachment because I want to say I've read it somewhere. With the dismissive avoidant attachment, isn't it true that it's more common that we are going to potentially struggle more, have a propensity more for addiction, turn to some other source to fulfill?
Yeah, I don't know that research. I don't know how sturdy that is, because I think we will find. I actually, the short answer for me is I don't know.
Yeah,
and what I would surmise is what's the most robust finding is that you're going to find insecurity of attachment run through all of addiction.
Sure.
It is rare that you're going to find those who are suffering with addiction that wouldn't also be classified as insecurely attached of the three.
Of the three, yeah. Okay.
But that may be something we should fact check ourselves and dive into the research.
Yeah, or if there's a university that wants to give me a doctorate and pay for it, I will study that specifically.
Absolutely.
Shout out. So Sid is kind of the star of the show in this one. Not as loud and doesn't get all the attention, but she saves the day.
Oh, sure.
And it's with her vast knowledge and competency that allows her to do so. But also, again, her dismissive avoidant style is going to be aimed at doing. Like, we're just going to focus on the task. Don't get lost in the emotion.
Yes.
Which can be really easy to get dysregulated by. The restaurant it's broken. It's shut down. There's no gas. There's no electricity. Yeah. And so it's, once again, chaos is at their door. And she is so quick to come with this.
Yeah, quick and competent. Mm-hmm. Yet the arc of her and all of the characters in the show, we see is toward this security, where she, towards the end of the episode, is in this beautiful, reflective sharing with Carmi about her business. And it's vulnerable, it's truthful, and she even asks for help. Can you help me strain this stock?
Yeah, that's it.
Right.
Okay.
That's just this beautiful, though it may be these two beautifully dismissively attached chefs.
Yeah. Because it didn't start that way in the episode. It started with it started with two dismissive people attempting to repair
side by side, independently. Yeah. Parallel play.
Yes, that's it. Parallel play.
Yeah.
That's exactly what they were doing. There was no emotion. It was just factual.
Yep.
But there was a relating and a camaraderie.
Sure.
Of like, yeah, we need a new menu.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
That we need.
Yeah. They could play there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But there was nothing of real substance of.
They weren't really playing with each other with the food that they were making.
Oh, they're working on totally separate things.
Mm-hmm. But they're doing it in a beautifully dismissively attached way that is safe. It's the right amount of closeness. It's not too close.
Right.
And dismissive attached folks really like our distance. We like to manage our risk with a little bit of social
cushion,
emotional buffer and bumper.
Yeah.
Yet they're learning to trust. They're learning to feel. They're learning to trust. They're learning to work collaboratively.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is seen in Carmi as he is teaching a new dish. And I think he's doing a really great job. It's so funny. He's a real character. I'm like, oh, you're doing great. Therapy's working, my guy.
All the therapy that you have been in with me, Carmi, I can really see.
I can see it.
fantasies of therapists that we are actually effective in doing good
In doing
in the world.
He's doing great in that when he's teaching and he's recognizing, he's attuning, he's recognizing the stress of his staff and the new dishes he's trying to teach them. And he knows it just inside and out, frontwards, backwards, and he knows all the language, all the technical terms. And you catch himself of, oh wait, they don't know what I know.
They don't know the way in which I know it too.
Right.
Yep. In the language that I know it.
And so he pivots really quick and attends to them. It's like, oh no, this is much more simpler terms.
Well, it doesn't have to be simpler. It just has to be in their language.
There you go.
Yeah. So it doesn't have to necessarily be framed in the classist, elitist French term. It's just, this is your language.
Right.
And it's not simple.
Because we're not in France.
Yeah, because we're not in France and we're not in French culinary trained.
Right.
That demands a certain language, which can or cannot be sometimes ridiculous. You just fold it in.
Just fold in the cheese.
But yeah, he's able to catch their mind in his mind. And he keeps them accurately in his mind, and it changes how he speaks or how he relates.
Engages.
And then therefore maintains a collaborative, effective relating and keeps them engaged.
Yeah.
If he would have maybe used the French term to sort of show off, he would have probably turned a bunch of them off and they would have been less interested in learning.
Right.
But he kept their attention and so beautifully, especially with Tina. She is so seduced into the security of attachment. She's so been bitten with the bug as she takes that bite and is just
mesmerized. Yeah.
With love, in love with there's a new way of being.
Yeah. She still calls him Jeff, and I don't get that because she was in a place of respect.
Yes.
And so there was, so now it's turned into maybe it's turned into a term of endearment at this point. I don't know.
Well, there is a point where she changes.
Oh, okay. Well, she did with Sid. She called Sid Chef.
After calling her Jeff?
No, after calling her bitch.
Yeah. She'll get there.
Yeah. And it's been fun in this episode to see the relationship of Sid and Tina really become a collaborative.
Yes.
The trust is really starting to show up.
One of the ways that we try and repair people's attachment disturbances is helping cultivate collaborative attitudes, collaborative stances, collaborative behavior. And you can really start to see Sydney and Tina begin to work collaboratively, not against each other, not undermining each other, not sabotaging, but we have a common goal. We can solve these problems in relationships as community. Yeah,
in a relationship, which to point out isn't always agreeing. Which I think is really beautiful about attachment.
Or sameness
the goal isn't to be the same, isn't to have the exact belief. But I have the safety to be me, you have the safety to be you. And we can live and cohabitate, collaborate in that.
The whole kitchen, all the characters, it seems, perhaps the whole kitchen is all moving toward collaborative work. When we introduced the brigade and we introduced structure and consistency and clarity of roles, the whole kitchen, the whole restaurant is moving toward security. We have this extreme exception, which I don't know that we're going to get into too much of this.
We can talk about it just real quick.
But cousin and fact, right, are these two clearly at odds. The conflict between the two of them is confusing. I don't know that it's nature, but it's real.
It seems siblingly, like a sibling rivalry.
Sure. It also seems very loverish in terms of two spurred lovers who seem like they can't stop fighting.
Interesting. Yeah, it's an odd dynamic.
Quite odd.
And I honestly don't really know how to talk about it. I mean, I do, but I haven't fully fleshed it out through attachment. There's a lot of insecurities that get activated between the two of them, and they seem to turn the volume up on each other really quickly. I think Richie more than Fack, but putting them together, Richie just cannot contain. He cannot.
It's all excitatory. It's all upregulating.
Yeah.
I'm going to get my needs met by increasing the volume, by increasing the intensity.
Having to assert authority that doesn't seem to actually exist, but really wants it to.
But aside from them, everywhere else we see these gorgeous examples of when they're building the fire pit outside, or how they're just even responding to the crisis of having blown the fuse. They solve the problem collaboratively at all levels, including Cousin and Carmi working together seemingly well by bringing all the
meat
beef
outside.
No, they bring the beef to Sugars.
Oh, that's right.
But
take it out.
They just seem like they did it collaboratively. And then the team is building the outside stove, oven, what do you call it? Grill?
Yeah, it's a grill.
A grill?
Open fire cooking.
I don't cook outside. Yes, open fire cooking. Oh, there it is. Sponsor. And so like the way that they build the oven, stove, grill, oh my God, I can't figure it out. It's just a grill?
It's a grill. It can be an outdoor stove. Yeah,
Okay,
it can be all the things.
The way that they build that,
But it's an open fire
that they're going to build with an open fire. They just do it all they're doing it well together. And that's how one maintains security of attachment. That's how if one's going to repair it, it's going to involve collaborative attitudes.
We're consistently in need of another.
Always and all day long, and tomorrow too.
Yeah. So the best way to do that is to collaborate. Which brings us to like the house of Sugar and Pete's home.
Yeah.
This was such a beautiful scene. I find myself wanting to show clients this clip where Sugar comes in pretty hot.
Understandably so.
Right. Yeah. No judgment. Like she is not being understood. She's not being known. No one's being curious with her.
Respected,
no one's respected.
honored,
right.
Considered.
And like in this scene itself, she actually was gone around. She was taken out of the equation. Carmi went straight to her husband and asked to use their house. And so when she finds out, she is really, she's hurt. And it's going to come out through annoyance, sarcasm, and anger.
Yeah. And in Carmi's defense, as he will say later, she can also be really misattuned because she keeps wanting to talk about the thing and she keeps bringing up quote unquote tangential things where Carmi's just trying to solve the problem of that's right in front of him. And she wants to talk about feelings and emotions and history and recovery. I mean, like there's that element of misattunement between the two of them.
Right.
Too, especially from Carmi's subjectivity.
Right.
That's why he doesn't want to talk to her because what he needs is a refrigerator. And she's going to say, have you gone to a meeting?
Right. Have you thought about our dead brother?
That's right. And you haven't thought about me, who has also lost our brother.
Right.
Yeah.
Something I forgot, my wife will appreciate that. I'm circling back that in I think it was the very first episode that highlighted Carmi's avoidant attachment and what Sugar is not attuning to. In one of their conversations, he says, it's not a big deal. I just wake up screaming and I can't breathe.
Yeah.
I'm fine. Just so unattuned to himself and what he needs, and that's not good. And she isn't, well, that's not true. She picked up on it. She was like, oh, he did slow down when she heard that. But he's just not able to connect to that part of himself yet. But in this dialogue between them, when they're at her house, it was just so perfect because she's coming in hot. She's picking a fight. But this fight is really her turning up the volume saying, do you hear me? Do you see me? I exist. You better acknowledge that what I have is important.
She's also saying that you exist and you better acknowledge important in you.
Yeah. And Carmi does what Carmi does. He tries to turn down the volume.
Yeah.
Minimize.
Keep.
Yes.
Break up the fight.
And it doesn't work. It doesn't make sugar stop. And so he has two options there. He can either turn it down and keep trying to turn down, which they'll just go back in that cycle of them back and forth. But he tries a different move, whether it was on purpose or not. I don't really care.
Yeah, or maybe influenced by the fact that he has gone to a meeting. We don't know that, but that's what he says.
Right. He takes a stab at just unleashing this vulnerable thing. And which I again, we may need to count like how many times I say in my office, but within session, it's interesting to see this play out all the time. Of the emotional volume just gets so high, and the dismissive avoidant gets so dysregulated that they can't contain it anymore, and it just falls out.
They can't avoid it.
Right, they can't avoid it. Right, and I think that's what he did here. And he just spilled. I went to a meeting, and oh my gosh, it's amazing, like how they're just writing life, and so I guess I get it. But I'm like, did you study? Life. Did you study attachment? Because this is exactly it's so perfectly done. How it automatically what the volume that she's been turning up and up and up is just silenced all of a sudden.
Yeah, she softens and warms and moves toward.
Yes.
Yep.
Because she's now saying, "Oh, you see you,
and you see
and therefore
me.
I exist too."
Yes, that's right.
You've listened, you've heard me, and you've responded, and you've engaged with what I've been crying about,
and what you've been crying about, but been present for.
You've been cooking about, and you've been.
That's right, in the form of.
Yeah. So it was a great picture, but this is definitely I see all the time within couples. Or dyads.
That kind of exchange between Carmi and sugar. Yeah.
Yeah. What sends people into therapy quite often. So it was a great picture and a lovely repair that, just turned the volume. I don't like saying turned it all the way down because like it brought the volume to a perfect level.
Yeah.
Right. Because we don't want it to be silent.
You and I have never used this terminology in this podcast, but the window of tolerance, it seems like it brought the affect, the emotion, and the intensity by which the two of them could connect in. It brought it into that window of tolerance. Where neither of them are being being dysregulated or overregulated.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Do you want to expand on the window of tolerance a little bit?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. There's probably other people, some of our colleagues I think of that might do a much better job at talking about it, but it is a metaphor for our capacity to be present and a capacity to think clearly and be organized and coherent while in the midst of feeling whatever it is that we're feeling. And for some folks, it's a much wider window or much wider range of intensity or depth of feelings that they can tolerate while then remaining present and engaged. And for some others, it's a much narrower range.
Right. Well, I think it's safe to say like the more securely attached we are, the greater our window of tolerance is.
Yeah, the window's as wide open as the sky. That's right. And all of the insecurity of attachment messes with our capacity to tolerate what we're feeling and to regulate it and to stay coherent in our thinking and organized. And that's all I got to say about window of tolerance.
But no, it did. It created a window of tolerance, which moves us into Carmi and Marcus's dynamic in the show of this episode. Because for one of the first times, we've always seen Marcus as secure and a good example of his ability to play, his ability to state his needs, to be himself.
We also see sort of Marcus sort of I'll use the term winning, which is an interesting nod to, I don't know why cousin really needs to win the argument. Well, no, they're back to them. But we see Marcus seemingly being well attuned and repairing and very comfortable with emotional closeness and very comfortable with independence and exploring. He feels comfortable with asking for what he needs. Like he just has lots of success.
Right.
And then we finally get to see Marcus's whole humanity, which always involves imperfection, always involves failure, always involves misattunement. And in this case, he forgot the assignment. He was distracted with something that he was really passionate about and trying to master and figure out, and was derelict on his responsibilities.
Right.
And so he messed up.
He did.
And caused the literal fusing to break.
Right.
Even though there's this other fuse about to break. Fac, cousin, and Carmi.
Right.
And
already blown. They
were blowing the fuse around coke, selling of drugs, and keeping this business afloat, and escalating. But it is Marcus who is the literal one who's going to literally blow the fuse.
Right. Like he just got so lost in trying to make the perfect. I think he was still in the donuts, right? And he was behind on his cake. He was supposed to be making the cake.
Yeah,
and he got behind.
And whatever it was that he was distracted by, he wasn't attuned and attentive to.
Because it was an interesting shift, because he went from such measured baking to sloshing milk around, having measured ingredients, and it's flying out everywhere. And then sure enough, it got overheated and a fuse blew, which shut down the entire restaurant. Almost caused them not to be able to open, created a need to go to Sugar's house to store meat.
Yeah.
Like it caused everything to fail.
Yeah, it caused some chaos.
And so to me, it was a really interesting moment when, like, Carmi has had this very stressful day again.
Because he's living his life.
Right. And he approaches Marcus is in the back feeling really bad about himself, taking on, like he's just, that joy, that spark is not in his eye at that moment. And
he's alone, interestingly, right? Like something that Marcus, I wouldn't have anticipated him hiding behind or away from everyone in the back. Yeah. And of course, Carmi finds him.
Of course. I knew it. And Carmi, I think because of his ability to have an emotional repair with Sugar, I think gave him a little more bandwidth. It gave him a window of tolerance.
And also, I just want to shout out the emotional repair that comes with going to a meeting.
Okay.
Because that precipitates that repair moment of connection with Sugar.
Yeah, I'm trying to conceptualize that a little bit more.
Well,
from like the attachment lens, it would be the success of reaching out and being engaged with.
Yep. And also
going to a meeting, taking that risk.
Yeah, going to a meeting, Al-Anon or AA or a group therapy or therapy or many other forms, but being involved and exposed to a group of people that are working collaboratively, that are growing in their capacities, expanding their windows of tolerance, you catch it. And so attachment repair comes in many forms and many avenues.
Yes.
And so I sort of conceptualize Carmi's ability to have had that kind of repair with Sugar, literally coming off of the heels of having gone to a meeting, and his ability to attune to and repair and attend to, really lovely, the way he tends to Marcus, of normalizing failure, of sharing his own failure, of having nearly burned down a restaurant after having just received an incredible award.
Normalizes it all.
Yeah.
Humanizes, is able to have compassion.
And connects, I see you, you see me. We can be vulnerable, and in our vulnerability is strength.
Yeah.
In our shared experience and in our sharing of experience.
It reminded me of the quote that you had in one of our first episodes, in that parenting is a just continuous series of failures with a few successes sprinkled in.
Yeah.
And that reminded me of Carmi in this moment, and it's in kind of a parenting role or caregiving role with Marcus. And it honestly, it reminded me of a story in my own life. And I was going to share because it's a story that sticks with me and that brings a sense of security at times. But believe it or not, I grew up hunting, but a lot of people don't believe me when I say that. And my father and I, we were deer hunting, and he had it was a newer Suburban at the time. I was 12, maybe 12, 13. But when we went to the deer lease, I got to drive the whatever car we had.
A deer lease is a plot of land that...
Does not everyone know this?
And I've never heard that term until I moved here and I had to learn it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a plot of land where then it is leased out because you have to...
So you can hunt on it.
Yeah, so that you can hunt on it.
Yeah.
A deer lease is like a lot of land.
It is. It is a big
It's like
lot
a
of land.
hotel without a hotel.
Yeah,
and
no
you kill
hotel.
things.
Like you may have a bunk bed.
Yes. So that's what a deer lease is.
So we would go hunting, and I would get to drive because it's just like dirt roads and stuff. And so, yeah, I grew up in the country and I grew up driving a tractor and stuff. So I like to drive and play. And so if I had an opportunity, I wanted to drive. So we were hunting, and I asked my dad, I was like, well, let me go move the Suburban so it's not in the path of our deer blind where we hide.
Deer blind is a structure that you climb into that has a little bit of a window.
A little tiny sliver window, yes.
So that the deer doesn't know that you're in there about to kill it.
Okay. Yeah, that's
These are
what
all
it
things
is.
I've learned.
These are all things.
Immigrating to Texas.
So I am excited to go move the Suburban. And as I do, I'm like, I want to back this thing up. And so a 12-year-old mind, driving a big, expensive thing, I put in reverse and I just tap on the gas and I hit the biggest tree, just rammed it.
Oh, dear.
And I was scared. I was like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen?
Sure.
My dad walks up and he's like, what happened? And I was like, it got stuck. It got stuck in reverse. Like it definitely wasn't me. And he was just like, okay, hey, well, yeah, we went on hunting. I don't remember exactly what he said between there, but it's like, we got to go. Like we only have a certain amount of time to be in the deer blind. And I was just riddled with guilt the whole time. And so there weren't any deer. So we're going back to the Suburban. And on the way back, I just started crying and I was like, I did it. I put in reverse and I didn't see the tree. And his response was so well attuned. He was just like, I know. And it was, this is going to be every episode. So, but it was just one of those moments that like, it reminded me of that moment between Marcus, and Carmi of, hey, I've been there. Like one of the words, he was just like, I know, like, it's just a thing. Like you're safe. You're okay. This thing can be fixed.
And it's going to happen.
It's going to happen.
I knew it happened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It was a really lovely moment that gave me the sense of I can talk to him. I can tell him if I've done something wrong, if like this is a safe place. So it was really
beautiful.
So this may be why people don't like the show, because it brings stuff like this up. Like even though this is a beautiful moment, it's sometimes hard to reflect on.
Or these are the sort of uncomfortable feelings.
Yeah.
They're not the pleasant feelings. They're the unpleasant feelings.
Yeah. So that, attunement, when we feel it, it feels really good. It feels so safe. It feels
expansive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. I've heard that story before.
Have you? I haven't told that story.
Oh. No. And I said I've heard that before, but it's still always moving.
Yeah. So, Dad, if you listen, you did it right once. There's more times, but yeah,
Yay.
that was an important one.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And your ability to draw upon it is part of what strengthens our security of attachment.
Right.
To make use of it, to reflect on it, to extrapolate from it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So when we signed up to do this, when we agreed to do this,
When you made me do this with you,
I didn't really think it would go here, but here we
I
are.
sure did. And I sure hope it'll continue.
There'll come more. Yeah. Anything else about this episode stand out to you? I'm going to pivot like Uncle does. I'm tired of feeling, so let's go somewhere else.
I don't know that's as hard of a pivot. You may be trying to laugh it off.
Yeah.
We bow to the sacredness of it. Namaste. No, you're asking the wrong person. One, I'm not facing the board of our notes. And two, I was the unprepared one.
You caught up, though. You're good. But how does the show end? Oh, it ends with that repair with Marcus and Carmi.
No, I thought it ended with it actually, I think, ends as it sort of begins, but just ends in a better form. It ends with Sydney actually sleeping and actually dreaming. And she wakes up from the dream and writes down a new recipe.
Yeah, she wants to cold braise. I'm going to have to go study that.
And it reminds me of the necessity of sleep. It's not a luxury.
Yeah.
It's an irreducible need. And the arc of insecurity towards security, we see someone who's not sleeping when she ought to be sleeping and she needs to be sleeping. And the episode ends with her actually sleeping, to which that's when our brains are recovering and repairing. That's why we need sleep, is our brains are very active, literally repairing the various neurotransmitters and the cells and the mitochondrion and yada, yada, yada.
Those are all big words.
And the beauty of dreaming and what can come from attending to our dreams. It's that unconscious trying to poke, hey, are you ready to deal with this? Are you ready to look at this? Are you ready to be this? And so the episode ends with her actually sleeping. We get a look at what she's dreaming about, and she wakes up and makes use of the dream, much like our nod to therapy, much like why we therapists want our patients to bring in their dreams and find such richness to them, daydreams or nocturnal dreams. And so it ends in this note of having had this shared reflective conversation with Carmi and reflecting on the catering business that didn't succeed, but it was the first time she didn't have some psychopath, quote unquote, that's her language, yelling at her behind her back,
breathing behind her,
where she had some autonomy of setting the tone and how she would be treated. And she's already done that with Carmi of like, hey, you're not coming at me correct. We need to change. We want this to be different.
Right.
And the two of them figuring that out together and creating a different environment. And here we as viewers, or we as the restaurant, or we as Sydney's are starting to reap the benefit, where now Sydney gets to dream and play, much like Marcus has been doing all along, and much like she and Carmi were doing a little bit about dreaming of a new menu, much like she and Carmi were dreaming about, hey, I think you could hire me, much like the two of them have been, and Carmi in particular, already dreaming about how this restaurant, I mean his family, I mean his life, could be different. That's how the episode ends.
Absolutely. Good synopsis and connection. Yeah. Well, here's to dreaming and getting good rest.
Yes. And here's also to the beloved community.
Absolutely. But we'd be nowhere without.
Love you, Michael.
Love you too, man. Cheers.
Bye.